Hey, 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 everybody. Take two. Take two. So excited today about today's interview. He is ready, and so we are going to get started on our interview today. I am interviewing Dr. Roby Mitchell, and we are going to be talking about flu vaccine, and we are also going to be talking about this mysterious polio-like illness that you may or may not have been seeing in the news. So I'm so excited. Let me message him and just tell him to make sure to hop on my live, and then so I can invite him. Okay. Hey guys, tell me where you're tuning in from. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna read his bio. If you heard it a minute ago, bear with me, okay? Hey guys. So my name's Liz Pivito. If you don't know who I am, as I'm looking for this information here, I want to just, been a registered nurse for 23 years, and it is my passion and purpose to help you become educated and informed about all medical and healthcare issues. So today is going to be one of those days where your mind is going to be blown. I do encourage you to get a piece of paper and a pen, take some notes. So let me see if we've got him here yet. Okay. Hey, Amarillo. Awesome. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to read his bio real fast while we're waiting for him. So Dr. Roby Mitchell graduated with honors from Texas Tech University School of Medicine in Lubbock, Texas. While attending Texas Tech, he's coming on. Let me get him on here. Hold on just a second. Yeah. So excited. He's going to be coming on. So while attending Texas Tech, he was selected to be the first medical student in an exchange program with Jinan University Medical School in mainland China. Hey, Dr. Mitchell. I'm reading your bio real fast. In mainland China, Dr. Mitchell studied intensive care and emergency medicine at the University of Alberta, Canada, and was invited to practice at the prestigious Tahoma Clinic, the nation's premier nutritional medicine clinic. There, he teamed with Dr. Jonathan Wright, MD. Dr. Mitchell honed his skills at treating colon, prostate, and breast cancer. You've never heard this before, have you? And you're a trip. This skill became necessary. Okay, guys, he really is a serious doc. He really is a real doctor. This skill became necessary as Dr. Mitchell himself developed life-threatening advanced prostate cancer. Staying true to his philosophies, Dr. Mitchell opted not to use conventional therapies, but instead investigated and chose a series of natural therapies that fended off his cancer. Okay, so now Dr. Mitchell now consults worldwide with other physicians, nurses, pharmacists interested in transitioning their patients onto regimens that take them off of drugs, praise Jesus, and onto healthful regimens using nutrition, exercise, bioidentical hormone replacement, and targeted supplements. And then I love this little quick snippet that you have on your website that says, Dr. Roby Mitchell, MD, specializes in educating people to adopt lifestyle changes that prevent and reverse consequences, love that wording, erroneously called disease.
Yeah.
So awesome.
I have to wear these when I hear all those good things about me, keep my head level.
Oh, okay.
Not take myself too seriously.
Well, I really appreciate you. Just on a personal level, I found Dr. Mitchell a few years ago through a colleague. I was suffering from debilitating acid reflux, anxiety, lots of issues. I had tried lots of different modalities, holistic, herbal, essential oils, medicines, and I just wasn't seeing the results that I needed to have a fulfilling life. And so I saw an article that you had written, or a post that you had written about hydrochloric acid, and it just blew my mind because I hit every single one of your markers that you talked about. And within a couple, I would say probably about 7 to 10 days of implementing the hydrochloric acid into my regimen, I was completely symptom free and continue to be symptom free. And also my daughter, I was 31 when I had my daughter. So, that's one of the things. She had severe eczema and reflux, and implementing the hydrochloric acid into her regimen as well. She's been symptom free since then as well. So I'm a believer in what you teach. I had never heard about pretty much most of the things you talk about and teach about. I didn't learn in school. And so I'm really, really excited to have you here
You're
today.
a nurse?
I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for 23 years. So just a half a minute. But today, our topic for today is the flu vaccine. And then, so let's just jump right in. You could just tell us anything you want to tell us. Let's just go with the question: does the flu vaccine work?
So I think we should set as a predicate a little bit of education that you
Sure.
didn't get when you were in nursing school, and I didn't get when I was in medical school. And that's one of the things that keeps us from understanding some of the stuff that's going on now, is that we don't have the foundational knowledge to put, two and two together, right?
Right.
So
I was taught the vaccine schedule.
You taught the vaccine schedule, same thing with me. And just kind of took for granted, that vaccines, we stick those in people's bodies, and your immune system then makes antibodies, and then it learns to attack the virus. It wasn't really taught, but you just assumed that virus, or the flu virus, or the measles virus, or the mumps virus, they got into your body, and they produced some kind of toxin, or they bit you, or stung you, or something, right? They had some mechanism of causing disease, which is not true, right? So we're going to go through the anatomy of a virus and the immune system response, that's called cytokine storm. And, certainly be information that people can verify for themselves. But again, as a as a medical doctor, and going to an accredited medical school and graduating with honors and doing the MD PhD program, I did not know some of this stuff, right? So I had to learn it after the fact, right? So let's talk first about it. And you tell me, you can see that graphic well?
Move your camera a little. I don't know if it's going to be to the other way.
Okay. All right.
See most of it. Still, if you can move it just a little bit more the other direction.
Here.
There, that's better. That's
Yep.
centered. Since we're splitting the screen, it's a little off. Yeah.
Right. So here we're just going to go through, how viruses get in and replicate, right? Because that's key to their ability to stimulate the immune system response, right? That we call cytokine storm. So here's your influenza virus, right? And so these little prickly things out here, these are the viral proteins that we're going to talk about in a minute. And so they have to attach to your cell membrane, right? So this cell membrane is where they have to attach, right? And then that's where they enter, right? So there has to be a compromise in your cell membrane. It has to be weak enough. Your front door has to be open, right? Car door has to be unlocked in order for that cell to get in the first place. So now once it gets in, so viruses, so out here they have a protein coat, right? But they don't have DNA, so they can't make proteins. So they have to get inside your cell. They release their RNA, and then it goes and attaches to your DNA. Once it attaches to your DNA, then it can assemble it can assemble these proteins, right, and then make new viruses. So it basically treats your DNA like a Xerox machine, a copy machine, and it just makes copy after copy after copy after copy after copy, right? And then once enough of those copies are made, then it's released out here into the bloodstream. Now, out here in the bloodstream are your macrophages and T cells, right, and other immune system components. So once they recognize these proteins that are viral proteins, not human proteins, then that's when they go into attack mode, basically, right?
Okay.
So now what your immune system is equipped to do is you have these two primary foot soldiers, right? One are these macrophages, right? Macro means big, phage means eater. So they basically are Pac-Man that go along and gobble up viruses, bacteria, fungi, right? And then your T cells down here, these are kind of your Marines that do hand-to-hand combat, you know, with viruses, bacteria, and fungi, right? Now, when they recognize these abnormal proteins from the virus, again, so these viral proteins are up here, and they're not human, so that signals your immune system that these guys are not supposed to be here. They have two mechanisms of action. One is physical, right? So they do the hand-to-hand combat with the viruses or fungi or bacteria and kill them. The other possibility that they have is to release these chemicals called cytokines. Now, it's actually these cytokines that are responsible for the runny nose, the lung damage, the aches. All those symptoms that you get from the flu are not caused by the virus. So important to remember that when we're talking about these viruses, they don't have DNA, so they can't produce a toxin. They don't have fangs. They don't have teeth. They don't have stingers. They don't have any way that they can cause damage. What causes the damage is these cytokines from your immune system, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's this cytokine storm, right? That is what causes the rash from the measles. That's what causes this pain and swelling from the mumps. That's what causes viral warts, HPV warts. Any of these viruses, the symptoms that you see from them are caused by your immune system response, these cytokines. And if that happens in the lungs, it can destroy lung tissue, and it can cause death, right, from interstitial pneumonitis. With the Ebola virus, right, then the attack is on the vascular epithelium, and it damages that such that you bleed to death internally. But again, it's not the Ebola virus that does it, it's the immune system response to it, right? So that's critical for us to know. Okay, let's look at these viruses and how they're put together, right? So this is influenza virus anatomy. Now, when you hear them talk about viruses each year, they'll usually have a designation of HN, right? And those come from these proteins, right? These little stubbies out here that are proteins. One is this hemagglutinin protein, and the other one is the neuraminidase protein. And so these can have different numbers. So there are different types of this hemagglutinin, and there's different types of the neuraminidase. So depending on which serotype is prevalent, right, we'll have an H1 or an H2, 3, 4, and then it'll be combined with an N1, 2, 3, 4, and that will tell us, specifically which virus is. So now this gives this virus basically a protein fingerprint, right?
Okay.
Now, the roll of the dice game that the drug makers do every year is that they're trying to guess which configuration of HN is going to be on the predominant influenza virus for that year, right? So they got to guess what the N is going to be. They got to guess what the H is going to be, right? And lots of possibilities. So they make that guess, and then they have to start way before flu season, right, in the spring, right, preparing that. So, by the time flu season comes around, they have already had to make their guess, right, and that's in the bottle, and it's set. If they miss it, right, if they get it wrong, then that whole batch of vaccines is just no good. And this is what happened last year, right? They made a bad guess, and so that's one reason we had so many people die last year. Now, the other thing that we need to notice is about these fragments here, right? These RNA fragments. So those in this in the viral protein or in the viral molecule is how, again, that these viruses, they transfer this RNA into your DNA and make copies of themselves, right? So if RNA is available, they just need RNA available, that can get inside your cell and get on your DNA and make new viral particles, right? Okay. Now, the thing about the immune system is that it's indiscriminate. So if it sees the influenza virus and its abnormal proteins, it's going to respond with inflammation, right? Inflammation meaning on fire. So it's going to produce cytokines. But the same thing happens, same exact thing happens with 200 or so different viruses, can cause this same response. So they're like firemen. Every time they go to the fire, they take water, right? If your house is on fire, they bring water. My house on fire, they bring water. Any building, right? So the same thing, you know, it doesn't matter about that is the influenza virus. It can be the Coxsackie virus. It can be any number of, again, 200 or different viruses. The immune system is going to respond by producing these cytokines, and you're going to have the exact same symptoms. So there's flu, which we characterize as a cytokine response to an influenza virus. But then there's also what we call influenza-like illness, right? Or ILI. But they're the same thing, right? If you got aches and pains, you don't really care you know, which virus is causing it. You just want to get out of pain. So it's the cytokine storm that we have to focus on and why that's happening, not the virus. So that's what makes the flu vaccine just totally worthless. I mean, it is as effective as taking a birth control pill once a year or just locking one car door. There's just too many viruses that can cause these flu symptoms, right? So the flu vaccine should just be totally off the table, right?
4. They're picking 4 usually.
3 to 4, right?
Yeah,
some of them have 3 serotypes, some of them have 4, right? But I mean, at best, you're protected against 4, and then that leaves another 196 that can come get you, right?
Right.
So what do we do?
Right.
Well, a long time, you know, before anybody ever thought about vaccines, mankind was surviving flu viruses, mumps, measles viruses, and so forth. I mean, these viruses have been around for a long time. They're not new. How did we survive them before? That was my question, right? A lot of people, like that 1918 pandemic, swine flu, that, you know, killed tens of thousands of people, right? But some people survived. And so that was my question. These people that survived, they were all breathing the same air, drinking the same water. How is it that they survive? So that made me start looking at these innate defense mechanisms, what I call intelligent design mechanisms that that keep us healthy. Because the viruses are here 24/7, 365. They don't have travel agents that bring them over from Hong Kong just during the fall. There are billions of viruses falling from the sky that we are breathing in every day, right? But what happens is during the fall, then we start to lose sunlight. We're making less vitamin D. We're not eating as many fruits and vegetables with these carotenoids that we'll talk about, and that makes us more vulnerable this time of year, right? So that's what causes the flu season, right? It's not that these viruses are making travel arrangements.
Right. True. I hate calling it cold and flu season. It's nonsense.
So let's talk about, again, these people that survive. You know, what do we find in them that makes them less vulnerable? And so I came up with what's called the Passover Protocol. And Passover referring to the story in the Bible where God sent a pestilence, right? And he told some people, you know, if you put the blood of the lamb, on your house, right, then the pestilence will pass over you, right? So this Passover protocol is what you'll want to instill. I mean, it should be done year-round, but certainly, you know, during cold and flu season, this is something that you want to go through and do a line item, check all the boxes, make sure that every window is locked, right, and you deadbolted the doors, right, to keep those guys from getting in. So one of the things we want to talk about is carotenoids. So carotenoids and beta-carotene is a pretty famous one. A lot of people have heard of beta-carotene. What carotenoids, they are these pigments that give fruits and vegetables these dark green, dark red, dark yellow colors, right?
Purple.
Now, carotenoids are building blocks for vitamin A. Now, again, remember that virus has got to penetrate your cell membrane before it can ever do anything, right? Any multiplication or anything, it's got to penetrate your cell membrane. What if you put a deadbolt on that cell membrane so the virus couldn't get in the first place, right? Then that would nip things in the bud. 70% of people never know they have the influenza virus. Again, we're all breathing the same air, so everybody is inhaling that influenza virus, but 70% of people don't even know they have it, right? Because their cell membranes are strong enough that the virus doesn't get in, and then it can't multiply, and then it can't stimulate the immune system. So these carotenoids are very important. So it's important that you eat produce, fresh produce, that has the colors dark red, dark yellow, dark green, and orange, right? So this time of the year, you know, pumpkins come to mind, right? And some of these root vegetables that have deep color in them. So you want to make soups out of those and casseroles, you know, that type of thing. Not so much pumpkin pie, though, you know, or pumpkin lattes.
Sugar.
But, you know, things that have fresh pumpkin in it. So pumpkin is full of these carotenoids, right? Bell peppers, tomatoes. And it's important to eat a wide range of those because, you know, there's a wide range of carotenoids. So there's beta carotene, there's lutein, there's zeaxanthin, lycopene, and certain cells in your body, right, have these sugar signatures that make them more susceptible to one carotenoid or another. So it's important to eat a wide variety, right? So anyway, so you get those carotenoids in, you make lots of vitamin A, and then your doors are dead bolted and the viruses can't get in. That's a huge bit of protection there, right? All right. That we didn't learn about in medical school. I mean, we had, what, 7 years of medical school, and I had a 1-hour lecture on nutrition, and most of that was spent telling us how dangerous fat-soluble vitamins were, right? A, A, D, and E, which turned out to be some of the most important ones that we need. Okay, so the next thing is vitamin D. And again, we're just going through a line item on this Passover protocol of things that you need to have in place. So vitamin D. It turns out that the cholecalciferol, what we call vitamin D, is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. Now, the difference between hormones and vitamins is that vitamins are building blocks, right? Like brick and mortar putting together a house, whereas hormones are the contractors. Now, you can have all the bricks and mortar that you want on a plot of land, but if you just throw them there and look at them, nothing happens. So you got to have somebody in there putting things together. Well, that's what the hormones do. Hormones get inside your DNA and they type a message on your DNA so that you produce proteins, right? Well, vitamin D is a hormone because of the fact that it gets on your DNA and types in the information so that your cells produce these antimicrobial peptides called cathelicidins, right? That's a word that you never heard of in nursing school.
Nope.
It's a word that I've never heard of in medical school, but it is a key component in our defense mechanism, right, that has allowed us to survive in an environment that's always teeming with viruses, right? So if you have good levels of vitamin D, and to really document that, you need to have a blood test. But if you have good levels of vitamin D, then your cells are constantly producing these cathelicidins, and they're in your bloodstream. And whenever they come in contact with microbes, bacteria, fungi, or viruses, then they kill them, right? So that's a big part of your defense mechanism. So in the fall, when we start getting less sun exposure, those vitamin D levels drop. And so does your cathelicidin levels. So that puts you at risk, right? So you're not getting as much sun exposure. You're not eating as many fruits and vegetables. It's like leaving your car unlocked with the keys in it, right? Bad guys are going to get in,
right?
So you want to get vitamin D in. Now, vitamin D, so the fruits and vegetables, those are very accessible in your diet, right? You can eat spinach, you can eat bell peppers, you can eat pumpkin and get your carotenoids. Vitamin D is not so accessible, right, in the regular food supply. It's a little harder to get. You can find it in some vitamin D fortified foods. It's accessible in mushrooms, cod liver oil, right? But on the day-to-day menu of what most people eat, a food high in content of vitamin D is usually not there, right? So that's one that I recommend that people supplement with. And you want to supplement it to the extent that you get your blood level up to between 70 to 100, right, for optimal protection, because you're not just protecting yourself from viruses. Again, this hormone, it codes for lots of different proteins. And one of the other proteins that vitamin D codes for is a P53 protein, which protects you against breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, right? So vitamin D does a lot of things,
Very
right?
important.
And also improves mineral absorption for strong bones, right? So vitamin D for a lot of reasons. Okay. All right.
Dr. Mitchell, can I ask you, do people have to go to the doctor to have their vitamin D levels checked? And if not, where can they get them checked? I know the answer.
I mean, there's different outlets that people can go and take control of their own health. So one of them is Any Lab Test Now, and I have one of those in Amarillo, and you can look that up on the internet and find one near you. And with an Any Lab Test Now facility, you can just walk in and ask for whatever blood test you want. You can have your cholesterol checked, you can have your vitamin D checked, you can test whether you're pregnant or not, you can do drug testing, right? All of those things are available. Just ask, just walk in, don't have to have an appointment or anything. Just walk in, takes 5 minutes, right? You can get whatever blood test you want done.
Yeah, without a doctor's order, you can do it.
Without a doctor's order.
Okay,
Yeah.
correct. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Put you in control. Okay. All right. Now, another thing, and this is really important, particularly in light of this epidemic that we're seeing going around now, this acute flaccid myelitis, right? Where'd that come from? So one of the things when the this 1918 flu virus killed all these people, some people went back and did some forensic studies on that. You know, what happened, who was getting the virus, who didn't get the virus, and that type of thing. There's a book called Flu by a New York Times writer called Gina Kolata that goes into detail. But one of the reasons that they found that people that didn't get the flu, even when researchers tried to swab, nasal swab people that had the flu and then make a cocktail out of that and give it to other people to give them the flu, they could not make them get the flu, right? And the reason they decided was because these people produced enough hydrochloric acid that their stomach hydrochloric acid killed the virus. And that's another mechanism, innate mechanism, what I call intelligent design mechanism, that has protected mankind all these years. Stomach production of hydrochloric acid. Now, when you eat, your stomach should produce enough hydrochloric acid to make your stomach pH 3 million times more acidic than arterial pH. 3 million times. That's very acidic.
Yeah.
Now, that is for a few reasons, but one is that is a very potent antimicrobial, scorched earth, broad spectrum antimicrobial that kills viruses, bacteria, and fungi. There has been no virus, bacteria, or fungi that develops a resistance to hydrochloric acid, right? Like they do with the antibiotics, right?
Right.
Antimicrobials. So you got to be producing enough hydrochloric acid. How do you know if you're producing enough hydrochloric acid? So this is another blood test that you can get. This one is called the MCV. MCV stands for mean corpuscular volume. Your mean corpuscular volume is the measurement size of your red blood cells, right? Now, red blood cells, in order for them to be effective, right, they kind of got to be like the three bears, the Goldilocks and the three bears porridge. It's got to be just right. So you have a narrow window of size efficacy for your red blood cells. If they're too small, right, microcytic, then they don't deliver iron and oxygen well. If they're too big, what we call macrocytic, they don't deliver iron and oxygen as well, right? And you'll have problems. What causes red blood cells to start to enlarge is low levels of B12, right? How do you get low levels of B12? Well, in order for you to absorb B vitamins, minerals, amino acids, another important thing that hydrochloric acid does is it ionizes them, right? It gives them a charge, a magnetic charge. And that magnetic charge is what pulls them into the bloodstream. If they don't have that charge, right, then they just go right through. So if you're taking, B vitamins and you're not producing adequate hydrochloric acid, they're not getting ionized, right? They're not getting that electrical charge, and they're not going in. That can cause a B12 deficiency. As those B12 levels go down, then that MCV gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh.
Now, on your lab test, if your MCV is 90 or above, that's elevated. Now, your doctor won't tell you that, but that is your kind of your benchmark for not producing enough hydrochloric acid and not having enough B12, right, in that MCV. So that is going to put you at huge risk also. So the demographic every year, right, when they come out, they start promoting the flu shot. Who are the demographics that they say should get the flu shot, right? Most often
Elderly and immunocompromised people and children.
And children, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do all those people have in common? Well, what they have in common is production of hydrochloric acid. So children are often, particularly, if the mother was a little older when they were born, right, past 26, then they come out not producing adequate hydrochloric acid. These are the children that you will see with eczema, impetigo, recurrent diaper rash, recurrent upper respiratory, ear, nose, throat infections, mood disorders, colic, cradle cap, all of that stuff. That happens from critter overgrowth from not producing enough hydrochloric acid, right? So children often are born not producing adequate hydrochloric acid. They have digestive issues, food allergies, all of that stuff. The MTHFR, right, something that I've never heard of, right, in medical school. Where did that come from? Again, it came from these babies being born to older moms and not producing enough hydrochloric acid. And that happens because people that are delivering babies are not taught to look for hypothyroidism properly. So anyway, as we get older, then like my age, then hydrochloric acid levels become senescent, right? We're just not producing enough hydrochloric acid because of our age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those two demographics, the very young and the very old, they are very compromised because they're not producing adequate hydrochloric acid. It's the same demographic that's susceptible to food poisoning, right? Whenever you hear about these outbreaks of food poisoning, right, it's the elderly and the young. Again, because those are the two demographics not producing enough hydrochloric acid, right?
Wow.
So that's very important. So you want to, and people can go to, you can just plug in symptoms of hydrochloric acid deficiency right into your search engine,
Mm-hmm.
and you can come up with all of those symptoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do the blood test also. So if you've got all those symptoms plus your MCV is above 90, then you need to start taking a hydrochloric acid supplement, right? Or if your kid is having all those symptoms. Now, the blood test doesn't work as well as children because their red blood cells haven't matured, right, to the normal size. They should be around 85, right? Mm-hmm. And there's many times, particularly younger, they haven't matured to that size. So the blood test is not as predictive in children. You'll have to go by their symptoms, right?
But supplementing with hydrochloric acid in children, there isn't any harm in supplementing, correct? If you're just going by the symptoms.
No. I mean, because hydrochloric acid is something that we're designed to produce, right? They should come out producing it on their own,
right?
But if they don't, then we may have to supplement it for a while until their guts mature. So you may have heard, somebody say, their child had asthma or they had eczema or whatever, and they grew out of it, right?
Right.
Have you heard that term?
Oh, my husband said that for years. Yeah, I grew out of it when I was 13, his asthma.
Grew out of it because he got taller, right?
Right.
No, what happens is that their gut matures and they start producing adequate hydrochloric acid, and then that stuff goes away.
Wow.
Right? It doesn't have anything to do with your height.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean.
Okay. All right. So now the other thing about the hydrochloric acid being an antimicrobial is that it keeps candida under control. Now, Candida albicans, that's an organism that's normally in everyone's colon, right? Mm-hmm. And when it's in the colon, it acts as a scavenger, and it can break down waste products and free up a few nutrients for us, and so it earns its keep that way. But if the conditions get right, if hydrochloric acid levels get low and thyroid levels get low and you're eating a bunch of sugar or high glycemic index foods, then that candida will grow and multiply and it'll start going different places. When candida multiplies, it produces a what we call a mycotoxin, right? So candida is a fungus, right? It's in the fungus family, and myco is the prefix for fungus. So mycotoxin or toxins produced by fungi. Candida produces one called gliotoxins. Now, gliotoxins are poison to your macrophages and T cells that we talked about earlier, right? Two critical parts of your immune system. Now, if we compromise their ability to do hand-to-hand combat, then the only form of defense that they have is what? Producing cytokines, right? Okay. So that's just going to keep producing cytokines. And again, those cytokines are very indiscriminate. And while they're aimed at the critters, they can do what we in the Marines call collateral damage, right? They can damage tissue that you don't want damaged, like your lung tissue, like your arteries, right? Cartilage, right? In rheumatoid arthritis. So
activate other viruses.
Activate other viruses, of course. So that candida overgrowth is a big part of the immune compromise that happens right this time of the year also, right? Because that candida, it compromises your T cells and macrophages, and those are critical for you to fight, because they do the hand-to-hand combat. We should just, you get that virus, it should, get destroyed by cathelicidins, it should get gobbled up by macrophages, it should get punched in the mouth, by T cells.